And joining us now, she is going to be inducted into the UCF Athletic Hall of Fame on Friday, September 23rd. Some would say it's about time, but three-time national champion, alum. You know her as the head coach of the UCF cheerleading team. I speak of Linda Gooch, UCF Athletic Hall of Famer, joining us. That's a nice title you've just added there. Congratulations, first of all. And what was your reaction when you were told that you were going to get inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, it's such an incredible honor, and just the fact that Alan and I have, been a part of athletics here at UCF for so many years. We absolutely understand just the importance of being in the Hall of Fame, and just what an honor, a tremendous honor it is, and to have a chance to go in with this class as well. Certainly. I've watched all four of those other athletes during their careers. And so to know that I'm going to have an opportunity to be a part of the class with Latavius and Joe and Mackenzie and Christina, it's just really awesome.
That's true. We're going to ask you about all four of them. You're right, because you have a unique perspective. You've seen them all. But I'm kind of curious, were you surprised at all? Because I think we knew you were going to get in, but we didn't know if you would get in while you're still coaching. We thought it might be after you're done coaching. But were you surprised at all by the timing of it when they hit you up with the news?
Perhaps, but one of the things that I have loved about UCF all these years is I feel like we have never followed the traditional lines on anything. We've always been willing to kind of buck the system, cutting edge, think outside the box. And so I wouldn't say that their choice to do this for someone, was surprising. I definitely feel very humbled that the way that our university views our Spirit program, because, a part probably of UCF being as young as it is, they've only ever really known a very athletic, competitive cheer program. And I'm just honored that they view us in that same light and embrace us as a part of their overall athletics program.
You mentioned your husband, Alan Gooch, earlier, who's already in the UCF Hall of Fame. How important is it to you to have now joined him in that Athletics Hall of Fame? And how did you two end up meeting in the first place?
So, of course, we meet like everyone meets in college. We met at a fraternity party. But so we were both athletes at the time. So we met as athletes. He was a football player here at UCF. And I know you're going to get a cavity hearing this. And I was cheering. And we both just loved the university even back then, and wanted to be a part of building something. And I think that's a little bit of the chip that UCF folks usually have on their shoulder is, I didn't want to be a Gator or a Seminole. I wanted to be a Knight, and Alan's always felt the same way. And I think one of those, that kind of common thread there and our love for athletics certainly has led to just some really, really fun times through the years. The chance to share in the growth of the athletic department and the university. It's not been a job. It's definitely been a way of life for us.
How's it feel to now join him in the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame?
Well, I think he's going to still make me do the dishes. So, and helping me. I don't think that elevates me to any kind of level in the house. He has always been certainly my greatest fan. There's no question about that. When our team, for me, it took 10 years of trying to qualify to be able to compete in the national championship. From 1984 to 1994, we were rejected for 10 years. If it was today and it was football, I would have been fired long ago. But, the competition was held out in San Diego, and Alan flew out there. He's been at every competition since, and certainly has always been my biggest cheerleader, my biggest fan.
Let's talk about the journey. How did it all begin? How did you end up coming to UCF and eventually, obviously, built what you have built here with the cheerleading and the national championships and the great, the great program that you've built here?
So my father was in the military. He was career Navy, and this would have been back in the late 70s and 80s. We lived overseas until I was a sophomore in high school. And then my family returned to the United States so that I could finish high school here. And a lot of our athletes would probably say that's where I get, my discipline, my desire for discipline and respect for scheduling is because of my dad's military background. I certainly feel like both my mom and my dad, I certainly got my work ethic from them and their emphasis on, always trying to outwork your competition. And so he retired here in Orlando in the 70s. This was back when it was the McCoy Naval Air Force Base that was here in Orlando. And so I finished high school here, and I was a first generation college student. And so for us, it was important that I be able to stay home and go to school. And so UCF was the natural choice. I did visit a couple of campuses, and even though we were very small back then, I think that we had about 40, we were about the size of a large high school, 4,500 students. I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and was a commuter for my first year. And then after that, because of being a part of the cheerleading team and practices and things of that nature, I moved out by campus and got my degree, an undergraduate degree in secondary education, taught social studies during the day and coached the cheerleaders in the evening. Once I graduated, they decided to move cheerleading. We'd never had a coach before. We didn't have a coach when I was cheering, and we just kind of ran our own team. It was like a club. And they decided to hire a coach and move it under athletics. And so I interviewed and was hired. Bill Peterson was the athletic director that hired me at the time. And he was there for, I think, a year. And then after that, it was when Jean McDowell came in and took over as the athletic director at that point.
That's incredible. And you have such a great perspective because you've seen this university grow under your watch. What has that been like for you as an alum? And as for somebody that's involved still on a daily basis with the program and the athletics?
A lot of people through the years have asked me because, this is my 39th year coaching the team. And I was a cheerleader for 4 years before that. So it's been more than 40 years. And so people have often asked me, how in the world could you be at one place for so long? But the reality is that UCF hasn't been just one place. It was one place when I was on the team, and then it was another place when Jean McDowell came in. And then when we moved to Division 1A and Dante Culpepper came in, it was a different place. And then once we started having success in the playoffs, as I look back, the opportunities to be a part of so many just incredible, iconic moments here. Everything from, one of my earliest memories of something really amazing was the first year we beat Bethune-Cookman. And people now would be thinking, what are you talking about, Bethune-Cookman? But that was a really big deal in the 80s. When we turned it around, there was a point when there were discussions that, we weren't going to continue with football. And so to turn it around, to start putting together some winning football seasons and win some of those, those rivalry games, those were great. And then of course there was the victory at Youngstown State. There was I took great pride in the noise penalty game when we against Troy State. And I think I've actually got one of the noise penalties here in my office.
Do you? Okay.
We want credit for that,
You should.
They can't snap the ball. That's, I take a lot of pride in that. And so, yes, so UCF has not been one place. It's been a lot of different schools, and just the fact that I've been able to stay here during all of that transition has just been remarkable. And, the great thing, as I mentioned before, it's the culture of the people that we have here that just keeps it so fresh and so fun. It's something new all of the time. It's all those great victories in football and basketball. It's that game against Duke. How does that putback not go in? I mean, I can still picture myself sitting there. I'm like 7 feet from Aubrey Dawkins. And, so I've really front row seat on all of this. And it's really been incredible.
Yeah, that's a great point that people may not realize, some may not realize in the audience. I mean, you're at a lot of these sporting events, with the cheerleading, obviously at football. I mean, I would say almost every football game you've been to during this time frame, right? I mean, you probably have missed some here and there, but for the most part, you've probably been at the most significant moments of the football program. And you just mentioned the basketball program and that Duke game in particular. Do you ever stop and think like, wow, you're a part of like a lot of this history that's taken place?
Well, I've actually never missed a home football game.
Okay.
1980. So every single, and so, it was really during COVID, it was, they did not have anyone on the field. And that COVID year was the first time that I had ever not been on the sidelines for all that time. So it was definitely an unusual situation.
We mentioned about all the history that you've witnessed, but what I want to talk about the history you made. You mentioned how you weren't able to even compete for national championships in the earlier years that you were with the cheer program. So what did it feel like to be able to finally get it in 2003, a team that you now join in the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame?
That 2003 team, it definitely was a David and Goliath situation. The University of Kentucky had won 8 consecutive national titles. I mean, there were 2 generations of college cheerleaders that never knew another champion. And they were just, so talented. They had all of the stuff. They had the money, the swagger, the history, all of it. And so for that 2003 team to be able to pull that off was certainly just a remarkable situation. And it really was built on the shoulders of the 2002 team, because the 2002 team went in there and we ended up runner-up that year. But the overwhelming opinion was that we absolutely should have won that year. And, we just did not come away with the votes from the judges. And so it is subjective. It's like gymnastics and ice skating. And, sometimes you have to hang around for a while to be able to win the respect. So it was built on the shoulders of the 2002 team, but 2003 was remarkable. And then to be able to follow it up 4 years later with the 2007 championship. And during all of that time, it was typically a 3-horse race. In the early 2000s, it was typically Kentucky, Alabama, and UCF. From time to time, it would maybe be an LSU in there or Tennessee, but we were definitely battling with the SEC during that time frame. And then, although we were in the top 3 for a majority of the next 10 years or so, it wasn't until 2020 when we won again. So, it's certainly not something that is an easy feat to be perfect in that moment.
What was your reaction and went through your mind when you got the word, hey, we're national champions in 03? You're competing for it, but in your mind, did you allow yourself to say, we can do this? Considering you mentioned Kentucky was a dynasty at that time. I mean, it was just as much of a shock, I think, to the rest of the cheer that followed cheerleading that Kentucky lost. And, here's UCF that's knocked them off. What was your reaction when that word came down?
So I was so happy for our team members, because, any coach can tell you when you have a group of people that is just completely unselfish and has put the work in and wants it so badly. And, many of those had come back from the 2002 disappointment, and knew, that they had that chip on their shoulders that they were going to do it. They were going to show that 2002 wasn't a fluke and that we should have been named champions. And for those kids to come back and work as hard as they did, I just was so happy for them. And, now that there's been some years in the rearview mirror and looking back on the members of that team, as proud as I was that night of them, I'm just as proud of what they've gone on to do. And I think moments like that, I'm sure you'll hear coaches that will talk about moments like that can be defining moments in people's lives. It's when you learn that hard work and believing and being unselfish, really can pay off, and you live it. It can be a defining moment in someone's life.
Coach, you're entering the Hall of Fame now. This year's the 15-year anniversary of the 2007 national championship team. What does it feel like to be able to enter the Hall of Fame at this specific moment in your career at this milestone since that team?
Well, it would certainly be awesome anytime, but just having a chance to mention that team and talk about that accomplishment, it's just, it certainly is a bonus in being able to do that. That was definitely a special group as well. Certainly any team that can win the national championship is a special group of individuals. And, we all still stay in touch. We have a group of them that text on the anniversary each year of that date. And so it's definitely, it's just definitely a special group, special time.
It's so unique too, because it's become such a big event when you're competing for the national title, where UCF fans on social media are tweeting about it, because the event doesn't air until on tape delay on television. So the only people that know the results are people that are there. And then they're sending the message either on Twitter, message board, hey, this is what they're doing. What does that mean to you that so many people care about your program and to the point where the standards are so high?
Well, we want it to be high like that. We talk all the time about the fact that, at UCF, it doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're the cybersecurity team, we expect you to be the best in the country. We expect only the best of the best. Everybody better be working to be competitive at that level. And, for us, I think that one of the greatest things is when someone that's a fan that just was curious decides to go out to the competition. I don't think it is anything like what some of them expected it to be. They talk about just what a cool experience it is to be able to be in the stands and see, Indiana walk by, Ohio State walk by, Michigan State, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, LSU, seeing all of the Florida State, all of these schools walking by in their uniforms to compete. And when our team takes the floor, all eyes are on UCF, because are they going to be able to do it this year?
What keeps you going? Every time I've seen you on the field over the years, you're still as intense. I feel like I can still hear it in your voice. You still enjoy this. What is it that you enjoy, and what is it that keeps you going?
Certainly the student athletes are, I feel like I've always felt like this is kind of our last. I'm a teacher at heart. That was my major, that was my education. And I taught middle school here in Orange County for 10 years before this became a full-time position. And so I think I just have that teacher's heart, and it's the last opportunity to really be able to make an impact on someone before they go out in the world and start making their mark. And those who've worked with young people 18 to 22 know that although they are considered adults at 18, they grow so much in that 4-year time frame. And it's just so incredibly rewarding to watch them when they're ready to graduate and know where they were when they came in and where they are now, and just truly believing that their time with our program has prepared them for what they're going to do next, because very few of us have cheerleading in our future. You know, most people, it's for most of them, this is the carrot, this is what they're going to do to kind of, you know, be a part of this during the time, but the graduation and preparing them for life is the important part. And so I think it's that mission is what my focus always is. And of course, like I said, you know, I'm extremely competitive at just about anything. And so we love cheering, we love competing, but we definitely keep at the forefront the fact that we're preparing these young people for their life.
Coach, we've talked about, you know, the history of you as a cheerleader, which I'm sure is going to be brought up a lot with the UCF being inducted into the Hall of Fame. But you're also, of course, we can't be remiss that you are the head coach of the entire Spirit program, which includes Night Moves and Nitro. And I mean, last year at the national championships, the dance team got to the hip hop finals for the first time since 2014. So can you talk about what it's like to kind of go through this entire program and how you work with the dance team? Because the cheerleading has obviously been around for a long time, but what can you say about the whole Spirit program?
So, you know, really one of our perspective, the competition part is great, you know, but the thing that is so important to our program as a whole, and this is why, you know, we've got one person that supervises all 3 areas, is because we need to be working together to bring the best fan experience and to engage our fans as much as possible during the athletic contests. And anyone that comes to a UCF football or basketball game, if you're watching the dance team or the cheer team or Team Nitro, you can observe us all working in conjunction to try to help affect the outcome of the game. And I know that might sound, you know, kind of strange. You know, how do you think you can affect the outcome of the game? But this is where I think having a husband that had been, you know, a college football coach here at UCF for all these years, you know, he's told me forever, you know, football is an emotional game and you have the ebbs and flows, and you got to know when, you know, you got to know in basketball when the team is going on a run, and you've got to know on in football when the team is on defense, and you know they got to hold them right here. And so if you're watching the Spirit program as a whole, you'll watch how we all work together in conjunction together to try and affect the outcome of the game. One of my proudest moments was, I may have mentioned it before, was the noise penalty that we got in the Troy State game. And then, although it wasn't a noise penalty, when we had the college football game day here, and it was the Cincinnati game, and Cincinnati literally could not snap the ball in the first series. You know, we take a lot of pride in that. Anytime that the fans are so noisy that the opposing team jumps offside or is having difficulty snapping the ball, you know, that's what we want.
College game day. That was a fun day too. What was that like to be on campus that day? Because I think you all were out there at game day. They had their own show the day before on a Friday, College Football Live, and then you mentioned the primetime game against Cincinnati. And to back up your point, I was there. It's probably the loudest I've ever heard that stadium, and the on-campus stadium. You've went through when they were at the Citrus Bowl. Now it's known as Campy World Stadium. Through the on-campus day, that's also been a game changer.
Yeah, it was actually called the Tangerine Bowl at first. Didn't even involve all the other citrus. It was the Tangerine Bowl, and then it was the Citrus Bowl. And then, yes, I mean, that was a game changer. You know, everybody that has been a part of UCF will attest to that, you know, building the on-campus stadium. And then, of course, in the same year to build the arena in the same year for basketball. that was certainly an exciting and incredible moment. College game day, though, you know, it was, as you know, you don't get much notice. You get about a week's notice. And I got a phone call, and Alan and I, we had interacted with Lee Corso through the years, just, and, you know, he's such a Central Florida sports figure. And so I get a phone call from him, and the word he used was epic. He said, "Linda, this is going to be epic this weekend. I'm putting the whole costume on." And so it was our job to find a way to have him be able to get into that mascot costume in about 90 seconds. And they built a stage for it, if you remember that.
Yes.
Stage for it, and the curtain dropped. And so it was just a very exciting, fun opportunity. And I think that, you know, for me, when people ask, you know, what would you say are the highlights, you know, of your career? There's no question that for me is right up there at the top, because our goal has always been, we knew, I mean, it was a matter of geography. You know, UCF is right here in Orlando, Florida. You know, we're 45 minutes from the beach on one side, 2 hours from the beach on the other side. Disney World, you know, everybody vacations here. You knew UCF was going to be a behemoth in college sports. You just knew. I mean, it was our birthright. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And so all through the years, we knew that. And it was just a matter of making sure that when it happened, when there was that magical year, that we were ready. And the great thing about college game day is we were prepared. It was just a matter of pulling the curtain up. We already had it going on. I mean, our stadium already had great traditions. We already had great participation from our fans. We already had a great mascot program. So it was just pulling the curtain up. And so it was an opportunity for us to showcase everything that we had being at UCF for the rest of the country.
Yeah, that Corso moment is certainly still an iconic moment there too. That's an iconic moment.
Absolutely.
You have this really unique position, I think, in terms of all the other, you know, coaches of UCF athletics, to really directly witness the effect that you're having on the audience. Because if you're like, you know, Gus Malzahn, Johnny Dawkins, Todd Dagenet, or Tiffany Roberts-Zahadak, you know, you're focusing on the field of play. You're focusing on your players. Well, when you focus on your players, you're not just seeing them, but you're also seeing the audience and the fans. So what's it like to be able to kind of directly, you know, be a part of that fan experience aspect of it?
So we've had some really cool comments come our way through the years. It was just a couple of years ago. We had one of the camera guys from ESPN turns to me, because we have these huge signs that say "shh, quiet," and just big quiet signs that we've used ever since the first Fiesta Bowl, and it's to try to control the crowd when we're on offense. And really it's a way to try to educate them that we want to be really noisy when we're on defense, but we want to be quiet when the offense is operating. And the camera guy from ESPN turned around and he goes, "It is incredible how you all are controlling the fans like this," because truly there are moments when you could hear a pin drop in there. It's so quiet and we're holding those signs up. So it is fun.
No doubt. I want you to speak about this class. You have Latavius Murray, Joe Burnett. You saw play. Speak to their great value. But I'm also, it's fitting that we're celebrating the 50-year anniversary of Title IX, and this is majority female Hall of Fame class, which with yourself, Mackenzie Audis, representing softball and the explosion of that program that you've seen, fresh, and then Christina Sarf being the first female rower to get inducted to the Hall of Fame there. Just speak to this class that you're with.
Well, I'm just so happy for Becky and for our rowing team at UCF. Our offices were next to each other at the old Wayne Dench for many, many years. And I just know how they pour their heart and soul into that team. And just the incredible success and dominance that they have had through the years. So it is absolutely fitting and time for one of their athletes to be named into the Hall of Fame for sure. And then just coming off the incredible season that the softball team had, the historic season that they had last year. And, gosh, they're rolling into this year. It looks to be just as dominating. And so couldn't be a better time for that as well. And, I'm someone that actually, came through the Title IX era. I was a student athlete in the mid 70s, just after Title IX was implemented. And even when it was first implemented, it didn't carry over to athletics until several years later. And so I do remember what it was like. I ran track at Oak Ridge High School here in Orlando. And I remember waiting. I know this is sad to say, but I remember waiting for the boys to be done with the hurdles before we would be able to use them. And some days they just worked on hurdles the whole time. And so we didn't have a chance to use them that day. And it didn't feel right, but it's interesting, the mindset of when something always just is that way, how easy it is to just kind of let it roll off of you, when kind of inside you're going, geez, that, or when are they going to be done? And it's just whenever they feel like being done. So, that was just my one. I know that everybody, there are so many different examples of those kinds of things. But I do remember that. And so we have just, I know there are people who feel like it hasn't gone far enough, and there are still, instances where there's a letdown, but my goodness, we have come so far. And it just goes to show you, with the success and the incredible participation of young girls and young women in athletics in the last 30, 40 years in particular. It's just, it shows that it has worked. It has had a positive effect.
The Knights really, I think the UCF program especially has really taken advantage of this, because there's just been an explosion of female athletic talent on this campus in the past several years. But I want to ask, because we've talked about how long you've been with this program and seeing this program change, but I want to ask that in terms of your players, because my family knows another family whose parents were with the cheer program, and now their daughter is in the spirit program. So what has it been like to coach these student athletes for all this time?
Well, it is a really rewarding thing to have an opportunity to watch them go on and be doctors and lawyers and do great things. And the family you're talking about are the Mediavellas. Frank and Sabrina were on the UCF competitive team in 1999 that broke into the top 3 for the first time. And they were both a part of the team for 4 years. It's interesting, we are a co-ed team, but we don't have as many relationships as people might think. I think that when you have a chance to see people at their worst and they're most frustrated, it's not maybe that attractive. But Frank and Sabrina, they went on and did get married, and their daughter Cassidy is a dancer on our dance team, our Night Moves dance team. And we've also had another family, Rob and Kim Molnar, and they actually were on the team with me, the UCF cheer team with me, and their daughter Ashley, she went on to cheer here at UCF and compete for us for 4 years. And it's interesting because Ashley, she actually married Nick Giovanetti, and of course Billy Giovanetti is in the Hall of Fame as well. So it's a lot of connections here within UCF athletics.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And you've seen the school change from conferences and divisions, going from 1AA, what they call it at the time, to 1A, conferences, ASUN, Conference USA, the American, and now for most of the sports, they're going to be going to the Big 12 next year. Have you thought about being on the field next year in a Big 12 conference game for UCF? Do you allow yourself to that? And what would that mean for your program?
It's just a bigger stage, it's definitely going to be a bigger stage. This is really what we've all been preparing for so many years. And gosh, there were so many people that were a part of all of the steps along the way and all the pieces that had to fall into place to get us to that point. So yes, it is definitely an exciting moment. And absolutely, we've certainly had a chance to think ahead, because we know that that's going to mean, as I said, a bigger stage, more travel probably, and just certainly helps everyone with recruiting. And we are included in that, because when you can provide a great competitive experience and the game day experience, then we're not going to lose any athletes to those Power 5 schools.
Coach, I know it might seem a teensy bit redundant considering you engage with them all the time under your normal job, but what do you have to say to Knight Nation now that you are now that you're being inducted into the Hall of Fame soon?
I mean, I just want to express my appreciation to all of the UCF fans out there that have just been so instrumental in the success of UCF's athletic program, whether it's through donations or just being vocal at the games and making the difference in the games, and also their interactions with our team. As we're going along in the March to Victory and all of those moments when our cheerleaders maybe are up in the stands and interacting, they're just always so grateful and appreciative. And I'm always so proud of the way that they carry themselves, and and our fans represent our university when we go to away games. I just appreciate the culture that they have helped all of us to create here. This really is a special place, unlike any other.
Well, it's you've helped it make it very special, Coach, and congratulations. I think I speak on behalf of many UCF fans, Knight Nation, and alums that well deserved on this honor. Congratulations on getting inducted to the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. We look forward to seeing that ceremony Friday night, and still seeing you go in there. What happens the next day? Because you're going to be honored at the football game, but you're working at the same time. How's that going to work? I mean, you're gonna take the crowd's going to give you a salute there for the Georgia Tech game.
Yeah, I'll just be walking from the sidelines out there. It'll be just another timeout presentation.
That'll be special. Well deserved. Congrats, Coach. Thanks for taking the time from your busy schedule to talk to us. And once again, well deserved. And thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.